It sat in a junkyard, in a building in a junkyard. About as nasty as you could imagine it could be. What I really, really wanted was an X-pipe. This was actually a purpose-built truck for Dennis Setzer in '99 for one race.
And obviously the lessons have paid off. He has got that #1 Mopar Dodge, conserving tires. Here we go.
And it was built brand new for the 2000 season as a road course truck. So it was a purpose-built road course truck. Has the reverse mount, Panhard bar, the battery mounted to the right side, all the stuff we can do for right side road course racing back then. And since then, all that stuff's becoming illegal. You can't do that anymore. But the unfortunate part is the truck stopped road course racing after this. This was the last one they had for almost 10 years. We had no use for this truck, so it sat in our showroom for the next 6 years. And it just sat there. And when we sold our race team, it got sold to one of those crazy Dodge guys that loves Dodge stuff out in North Dakota. So he bought a bunch of stuff from us, and about 18 years later, we ended up back with it.
Did you know that he kept it the entire time?
I kind of knew because about just after Dad died, but a little over 3 years ago, the guy contacted me, his son contacted me, and said his dad was running into some health problems too. He's like, I'm gonna sell all this stuff, and he sold Dad's old LeBaron, and he bought a Dodge Charger from us to a street car that Dad had, and he sold that to somebody else. Through a lot of different people, Brad ended up back with the LeBaron. It's not here, it's over at a different place, but this truck still sat there, and the guy didn't know what he was gonna do with it. And honestly, there was no real resale unless you were a Dodge guy that wanted it. And at the time, I told him, I don't really have anything I can do with it because I was trying to get out of the shop that we were in, and just was no reason to have it. And then last year, when Brad went to Watkins Glen, Jim France and Mike Hilton have bought into this HSR deal. So they actually are running it out of Daytona. I mean, it's like a full-on almost NASCAR deal now. So they started a NASCAR Classics division within HSR, and they're bringing race cars to the track to try to just drum up some interest. And when Brad went there and he watched the race with them and noticed how excited that those guys got about this event, he's like, I think we need to be involved in this. So he had me come over, and he's like, well, what do you know about historic racing? I'm like, well, I know about nothing, but they run with us. I just know that they don't run old race cars, So I started looking into it, and I knew where this truck was. So we contacted a guy, and he's like, yeah, come get it. So I drove up to North Dakota and went and got it. I haven't touched the paint on the chassis or the body.
Really?
Yeah, so that's how good it actually stayed. I think it was kind of helpful that it was as dirty as it was. It sat in a junkyard, in a building in a junkyard. And that's where the thing sat. It had a street motor in it at the time. And I had them pull that out because I didn't want nothing to do with that. And I think the guy drove it around a little bit. I don't really know where or what. I think it was just some shows or something. But there it sat for years, and it was a mess. It was nasty. It had rat turds in the seats, and just half-inch of dirt on the thing. It was just about as nasty as you could imagine it could be.
Some of these graphics are original?
So everything but the Mopar graphics. The contingencies are all original. The Mopar graphics were just put on here recently because we had taken them off a long time ago, back when it sat in our showroom. But the big thing for us and for this series is they want the cars to be historically accurate for the library, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how they want it to look. This was about as close as we could get. The best way to recreate it is we bought a model off of eBay from the 2000 year, and it had a decal pack in there. And the decal guy actually was able to copy that and recreate the decals based off of that model.
That's pretty cool.
So that's how everything turned out.
So who's supposed to drive it now? What are you going to do with it?
I guess it's going to be me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really want to do that. That was not the goal. I wanted to put it together and go on the racetrack. I was hoping Brad would drive it, and there's some extenuating circumstances with the Dodge and the Ford stuff. He just didn't want to upset the apple cart any, so I guess I win the prize. I get to do it, so but we'll see how that works. I put my seat in it, so it's a big seat in the car, and I haven't been racing in quite a while. I drove Dad's land speed car about 3-4 years ago, but other than that, it's been 10 years plus, so.
You're still probably more qualified than a lot of those guys that are there. So
I will say the last cup race I ran was at Watkins Glen, so at least there's that.
You're fresh.
Yeah, fresh from 2013. So. More than anything, my biggest concern, I just don't want to wreck it.
Yeah.
I just want to keep it clean, and because you're not going to find body parts for this thing anywhere. This was a little bit of a specialized truck too. The year in 2000, we went to a new nose piece, and this nose, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure only ran the 2000 year. And then they went to Dodge, the street truck came up with a new like headlight and bumper, had that kind of circular headlight
With
that
the
came
curves
up.
on the bottom. Yeah.
So that, I'm pretty sure the race truck got that same styling to it. So this nose was actually something that we developed in the end of '99, and we went to California Speedway and ran it, and tested it for quite a bit. And then this is what we settled on, and that's what we ran in the 2000 year. So you're not going to find that unless you can find a very, very specific truck that would have had that. Lower nose on these Dodges were Pontiac. That's from the early '90s Pontiac Cup car.
Like from here down?
Yeah, basically from here. They had the old dish in here, and the original trucks didn't have this grill work involved in it. So let's say like 95. The original first Dodge trucks had a Chevy lower nose that we used on it. And it was a weird kind of shovel nose looking thing, right? 96, we went to this styling of nose for the lower half of the nose. And that was, Dad ran Pontiacs in the early 90s. And that was where we helped design that. So that lower nose was actually a early 90s Pontiac lower nose, the design of it. And of course, this stuff wasn't involved in that. We actually made it out of aluminum. So like 97, 98, if you looked at the trucks, everybody had a little different styling of what they did right there because that was pretty wide open. Then they molded it in because they liked the styling of it. So that aluminum piece all ended up molded in. And of course, this year, nose was all different anyway. It's a 2000 was like its only gear that it ran. But the original base design off of this was all off the early 90s Pontiac.
And that's because your dad had that one sitting around.
Yeah, we
like,
had them
oh,
sitting
let's
there.
use this.
We liked them, and nobody could come kind of agree on what they wanted to use for a lower nose. Because back then, the trucks were very wide open. Like that first year or two of trucks, you could about do whatever you wanted because they just didn't have a locked-in design. And once we got about 97 or so, that's when they started really locking everybody in and saying, all right, this is what we're coming up with. So once Dodge actually got super involved, because that first year Dodge wasn't very involved. The 95, they didn't have a lot of programs involved. The 96, they got really involved with it, made a Dodge truck out of Petty's, and a Mopar truck was actually with the 30 truck. That year, Jimmy Hensley actually drove in 96 before he got the Dodge deal, because Rich Bickle was in the Dodge truck. So Jimmy ended up in the 30 truck, and then he moved to the Dodge truck the next year, and then we got the Mopar deal. So, but yeah, original design was based off of early 90s Pontiac.
Is that why it's got this little flat thing in here?
I
or
think that was just some of the
late?
styling from the Dodge bumpers. I'm not sure if the 99 truck was different. That was a little different. So in 99, when we were running the engineering team, we come up with this new nose working with the Dodge engineers, and we actually had a 99 truck and then a 2000 nose that would bolt onto the truck. Like we could take the old nose off and put the new nose on at the racetrack. And it was a really kind of funny deal where it actually bolted in the middle of the fenders. That's that same year that Greg Moore died at California. So we ran the truck race on Saturday and then tested Monday and Tuesday, like right after he died on Sunday. So we were at the track the next day. So like we stayed there the whole time, but we ended up doing a ton of testing with this. We blew up like 5 motors. It was a mess. The whole test was a super big mess, but we landed on running this nose design. Even back then, they ran wicker bills on the trucks. So these were actually optional. You had like an 18-inch long one and a 24-inch long one, and they had to be half-inch wide. So they kind of had rules on all that stuff. And we actually ran that for quite a bit, and probably, maybe 2000, like late 2000s is when they stopped running them, like 2008 or 9.
What was the difference between the 18 and 24 inch?
Just the amount of downforce and drag you were going to have. A lot of times we ran the smaller ones on the intermediate tracks. At one point, they made these mandatory at 24 inches for the super speedway races. like Daytona, and you know, so that was actually a big thing at Daytona in about 2001 or 2. Rick Crawford and Ted Musgrave got up in the wall in qualifying on purpose to flatten these out. And then they had done a bunch of stuff with shifter boots and oil tank covers, and then they started making everything mandatory because everybody was finding all this stuff they were, you know, basically, for lack of a better word, they were cheating on. But they were just moving things around, and they ended up making all these rules where you had to, like the oil tank lid on this doesn't have a real lid. Well, now everything had to be sealed off and welded down because everybody was doing things to prop them up and get air out of it, and they would make it faster. Same thing with the wicker bills. They were just making you slower so they get up against
the wall.
Yeah, and on a warm-up lap, come up and up against the wall and flatten that thing off a little bit. There you go.
How did they catch on to that? Like,
well, when the 2 trucks that did it qualified on the front, and they come in and they were all, you know, they were worked off the right front, and like, why are you guys hitting the wall with these things? They come up with a pretty good idea why they did that. Oil tank were falling apart, or like the whole lids were coming off, the shifters were all coming off, like all the boots and everything, everybody had holes in it because they were just letting air out, and it made it faster. The hood is an actual stock hood.
Really?
That is something that they actually sent to us from a Dodge manufacturer that just didn't have the internal parts of the hood welded into it yet. And the original hoods that we had to strip all that stuff out of them. Like, we would get street stock hoods and have to strip everything out of it.
Really?
Roofs the same way. Well, we finally, by about 98, 99, we're starting to get just skins. You see, with the air cleaner, previous to cowl induction for the trucks, we didn't go to cowl induction until about 2002, maybe 3, somewhere right in there. And they had this air horn style all the way up until that point. And that's how we ran from, I think, about somewhere between 97, 98, all the way through to about 2001 or 2 is when we ran this air horn style.
I bet that's like 40 or 45 pounds, that hood.
Oh, it's heavy.
Yours is 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of steel.
Yeah.
It's like half the fender too. It's kind of
Yeah.
the way it's almost like the old Buicks, how they came down on the fender.
Yeah, that's it had its own styling for sure. That was all hand-built type stuff. We obviously would get the skin, but we'd have to do all the internal parts to it. And back then we used to run these shocks. You can still find these at an auto parts store. So we actually put one on the other day and it bent the crap out of her stand. But so that one was a little too strong, so we had to go on Amazon and go find some that were a little different. But they still use these today on street cars for like rear windows or hoods and things. Like my Ford truck out there still has them on the hood.
When this was raced, would it have had the R3 W8?
So yes, it would have
setup
had the W8 in this particular truck, yes. We were pretty much all on W8s by 98 and on. 97, the W8 came out, but we weren't, honestly, we really never got one until almost the end of the year. So Dad won Richmond with the W7 headed.
Huh.
So, which was actually, if you go back and watch the Richmond race, they kind of talk about that a little bit.
Motor ran good. Gary Stanton engine just ran flawless all day and had adequate power. I mean,
He's like, I got adequate power, but we didn't have the new motor yet, which was an odd deal because we were the Mopar truck. We would have thought we'd had a new motor, but we never did. But it was just kind of slow to come out in 97, and then 98, everybody was on the W8.
Were the cabs on this truck factory stamping?
This is a factory stamping, yep. The B post is actual B post off of a truck. And then when we started, what we originally did is we took the back B post, because the door would come in seamed right here. We would original B post off the truck, because you can see how it's a little shape different through here. And then what we did is we cut 2 B posts in half and made the front half out of the rear half. Oh. And then once we kind of got into that, that was probably 95, 6, 7 right in there. Then they started making stampings. So this is actual stamping. This is not an original like street B post, but it's all copied based off of that. But it is the original roofs. I think we had to make our own A post at that time, which was really kind of easy. It just seamed in right up in here and here, and you just rolled it. It was a fairly easy piece to make. This was previous to both the common body in 2004, and then sometime about mid-2000, they allowed us to narrow the roofs up. So we cut the roofs into 4 pieces and narrowed the whole roofs up in about mid-2000. But this was previous to that. So this was still the original big A-post, B-post roof from the Dodge stuff. This is how it came.
Interesting. So that's the kind of stuff I'm real interested in, to see how these things were actually constructed.
So that year, I actually came off the road and started racing myself. This was the first year I raced, and I worked on the engineering team. So we did a lot of that development on the engineering team with that. So we had 2 teams based in our shop, and my dad still raced, I'd say 3, 4, 5 races, something like that year, in '99 and 2000. And he raced the engineering truck. And we built it and did a ton of testing. And that back then you could test anywhere and do anything you wanted. So we tested and tested and tested all the time with that truck. And then we built a brand new truck to mirror some of the stuff we had done with the race team. And he actually ran really well at Michigan that year with it. I think he was running second, hung it in gear on a restart and blew the motor up and wrecked it pretty bad. We were doing a lot of testing. It was actually a pretty interesting year. I was 18 and just kind of helping working on trucks, and we went all over the place. We went and did some drag racing testing for restart stuff. We went to a drag strip, Norwalk up in Ohio.
Really?
And just, we didn't do standing restarts. We did rolling restarts, so we'd have somebody stand in front of the line, and then when he would get there, he would be in second gear after he rounded the corner, and then just drop the hammer and go. It was all restart testing.
Yeah.
Roll racing.
Roll.
So it was all rolling.
There's actual race classes for exactly that now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we tried to do a standing start. It burned the clutch up in 1 or 2 stops. It wasn't. These are not developed for that. Clutches on drag race cars are that big. Ours are this big, that's not going to work. But so we did a lot of interesting testing back then on this stuff. But
do you remember what the trap speed was on the rolling start?
No, that was 20 plus years ago. No, it was interesting, but we did a lot of engine changes and transmission changes, a lot of driveline stuff, just trying to improve restarts because we were getting our butt kicked pretty bad on restarts. The main building that Dodge had was 3 miles down the road from us, so all their engineers would come over to our shop all the time and work very closely with us.
Yeah, I think being up there would be an advantage to you.
Big time. Yeah, it was previous to when they built the wind tunnel, so unfortunately we didn't have a lot of wind tunnel stuff at that time. That was unfortunate because they did end up getting a wind tunnel operational after that, which would have helped a lot.
Yeah, I was wondering how the roofs were done on these things, because I couldn't figure out when the trucks started, they looked like factory greenhouses, and then somewhere in there they started shrinking
the
same, and then they still kind of have they changed it all since 04?
No, that is still the 2004 Ford roof and A post, B post, everything on that. The current truck is still the same thing that we've had since 2004.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's obviously they've moved it around and they've changed angles and things like that, but the stamping, it's all the same stuff. This chassis is actually powder coated. And not a lot of teams powder coated their stuff back then, but this is powder coated.
Interesting, because I was looking in the engine bay, I'm like, this looks really, really nice.
Yes,
like this paint
looks too nice, right?
Prime, yeah.
Can't believe that it didn't repaint it or something yet. So this truck only had the 1 race on it, so that helped a lot. But back then, we could powder coat chassis so fast. It was actually way, way cheaper for us, and all we had to do was pull the fiberglass off. So we would get an entire truck built, body on it, everything, pull the fiberglass back off of it, call the place that did all the powder coating. We could have it there at 6 o'clock in the morning and have it back in our shop by 2, 3 in the afternoon, and they were 2, 3 hours away from our shop, so we could get it back, have all the fiberglass on it, and ship to the paint shop all in the same day.
Wow.
And I mean, that's how fast they did it, and they did a great job. Honestly, 25 plus years, and the worst part is that little spot inside that's just gotten some rust and chipped the powder coat out of it. So
Living in North Dakota, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about your exhaust system there. I was seeing your post about that on.
So the exhaust system's off of a Penske car. It's something I found in the back, trailers at SRI. And I kind of had a feeling that they might have some stuff up there. And what I really, really wanted was an X-pipe. Because back then you could run anything you wanted, right? And this truck had brackets to go on both sides, so you could do anything. And Dr. Gas system has been out of business for years. So the original stuff that they built, on the 4 car and all that guy has been gone for years now. But really when the COT car came, that pretty much put them out of business because they didn't allow them to run that stuff anymore. But some teams started building their own. This, I think, is around an 06 Penske maybe super speedway pipes or something. It definitely is Penske because it had their numbers on it. When it came to me, it was pretty nasty. It was very rusty. The pipes on the outside had been cut to try to foul the frame rails, so they weren't going to fit anything. But it had a good base, so I cut it all up and just kept cutting until I could get things where I wanted them, and just threw away the boom tube part of it. And all the rest of it, though, I reshaped it and got it to fit up under there, and then made my own boom tubes, which really was, it's time consuming, but it wasn't that difficult to do. So
It looks great.
Yeah, it does.
Just went and got some material over at SRI and started putting together, drilling holes and making everything fit. And that was the biggest thing. I wanted it to fit, but I wanted the sound of an X pipe because they sound different.
Yeah.
It just has a whole different tune to it. And there's a lot of work. I probably spent almost a full week on just getting all that stuff. You know, I had to have all the pipes blasted because they were so nasty. I was like, I can't work on this. I got to start over. So blasted everything out and just recreated the pipes and got everything to fit correctly. It took some time, but I liked it.
I am very excited to see some video of this on the track because of that. I'm a huge X pipe nerd.
When this thing gets to about 5,000-6,000 RPM, it starts that IndyCar sound to them, and I mean, they're awesome. They sound really good. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to have that somewhere right in that RPM range where that thing really sounds like it's coming at you. This truck probably ran right side only pipes when it raced. From the looks of it, you can tell by the floor pan kind of where the paint's been burned off of it. One of the reasons would have been road course racing. We needed to get all the right side weight you could, so that was pretty important. Back then, we could still put frame rails on the outside, you know, extra frame rails to hold lead, so there was some on this truck, and they're still there. Today's stuff, you're not allowed to do that anymore. They can do the inside, but you're not allowed to do the outside of the frame rails. So the batteries moved over, the oil tank is kind of centered as much as you can. The frame rails all added. We used to run a center ballast tube around the drive shaft, and that stuff's all gone now. It actually never came back with the truck. But so I still have to build a drive shaft tube for this thing, but I still wanted the sound more than I worried about the right side weight, so I just went with that. I would say most of our short track stuff ran left side pipes, and then our intermediate stuff was kind of, it could have gone either way, just depending on what we wanted to do. Short track stuff for sure was all left side pipes back then.
You ever feel like you're being followed around on the internet? You search for something once, you get advertisements for it or things like it for weeks. Well, that's just how the internet works now. It's all about advertising, trying to figure out what people want. As we come to you with today's sponsor, DuckDuckGo. See what I did there? DuckDuckGo can help you avoid that problem of being followed around on the internet. You want to do what you can to eliminate websites from seeing your location, your IP address, or accessing your personal information like your name and email address and all kinds of other stuff. Why would you just give it to them for free? They'll use that information to target more ads for show you crap that you don't want to buy, or maybe you do want to buy but you don't want to buy it. You know what I'm talking about. DuckDuckGo believes the best way to protect your information is to not collect it at all. It offers protection, privacy, and peace of mind. And the best part is, it's completely free. You can just download it and start using it. They make their money from privacy-respecting ads. DuckDuckGo browser is available on Mac, Windows, iOS, and Android. You can have it on your desktop or your phone, no matter what you got. So it's free, you got nothing to lose. Try out DuckDuckGo from the link in the description. See if you like it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you won't know unless you try. I wanted to see some of this road course only stuff back here where stuff, everything's flipped around.
So
is this an actual Dodge truck badge stuck on the back here?
Yeah, that was not original.
Okay.
That's something that the guy in North Dakota stuck on there. So
you could have told me it was, I would believe you.
No, that unfortunately was not. And our original braces, I couldn't find anything like that, like what we used to run. And honestly, they were kind of hokey, and they would bend on you and have all sorts of problems. So I found different materials and stuff to work with for these. They're a little chunkier than it has to be, but it kind of worked out. So we ended up making all of this ourselves. I bought the pieces here with the Heims, and then I had to make the rods and stuff for it. But it all come out pretty nice. In the trunk, I had to buy a new fuel cell because the old fuel cell was obviously way out of date and really nasty. So this is all just kind of put back together. What I would figure was pretty close to original. I still had the original dry brakes, and I had to find a tube for the backside, but it all come out pretty nice. They used to make us run steel crush panels in some areas, so a lot of the stuff that was in here was galvanized, and they were, I mean, it's 25-year-old sitting around getting rusty, nasty. It was not nice. So I just replaced everything with aluminum and just went back and touched everything up.
Why'd they make you use steel?
So if you've probably seen some of your like more recent NASCAR stuff, they actually have steel all the way to the back here. So these kind of panels had to be steel.
Okay.
But they didn't have to be welded in. Now it's all welded in. So back then we just made them out of galvanized because the lightest thing we could come up with.
Just for safety, or?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. They just they come up with some funny rules sometimes. Sometimes they just have rules to have rules. I don't really know why they had those rules, but there was nothing super important about it. I mean, it was going to crush just as easy as the aluminum was going to, so I don't really know. Honestly, it kept it pretty clean. As nasty as it was back here, it cleaned up really good. The inside of where the fuel cell goes is a little rusty, but that got hidden pretty easy. Yeah. The gas back then was pretty rough on stuff too, and it would eat through. I mean, you used to use wood, didn't have all the spacer panels you have now. I went through and just put Lexan and everything, just so it wasn't wood, but it was not nice. So we've cleaned that up quite a bit. So there's one actually interesting thing about this. Dennis Setzer came over yesterday and we were looking at it, and this truck was built previous to the 2000 season, or was in progress of being built. And when Jeff Bodine wrecked and went through the catch fence, they come out with what they call the Bodine bars, which are these extra added bars on both sides here. And that was just trying to keep people from jumping wheels and into the catch fence. That's basically what happened to him. And this truck had to be retrofitted before this race. This would have been one of the first trucks we would have done when that rule came out. So when we started taking crush panels out, we noticed that this stuff had all looked like it had been repaired. Well, that was all painted, wouldn't have been powder coated. So this truck actually was brand new, fresh, ready to go, and had to be retrofitted for all those bars. You can see
kind of the variation.
Yeah, you can see where the powder coat was ground off here and stuff.
And it's the same up front. There's a couple up front too. They're a little bit hidden by crush panels the way they are, but they have them back here, just in front of the rear tires and behind the front tires.
Interesting. I never knew that.
And the trucks are the only ones that run that. That's not something that Xfinity or any of them ever had to go through. Which was always an odd thing. We're like, what's the difference? It's all the same basic vehicle. But trucks still to this day have to run Bodine bars like that. There have been a lot of different variations of the shapes and the sizes of them, but they're all basically the same.
Where did this particular chassis come from, like the builder?
It was a Laughlin chassis. My dad was pretty tight with Jack Laughlin. Like, that was the first. My dad was a chassis builder too, and when we first built our first truck in '95, he got it from Jack. And I'm not sure exactly why he got it exactly from Jack. I don't know if we really knew him that well before then, but he was pretty loyal to him from there on out. And we did build a couple of our own chassis from the ground up, but honestly, we never really raced them. We just did some testing with it. One we had in the rafters of our shop and never did anything with it. We sold it to a guy. But Dad was very loyal to Jack. And even when Brad started his truck team, other than maybe a few trucks he bought from other teams when he first got going, most of his stuff was all Ortec Laughlin stuff. So they did some redesigning on some parts and pieces on it, but it was all from Jack. Back then we would still do some of our own clips, like if we got wrecked or whatever, and we put all of our own bodies on. So when we would buy a new truck, we would buy multiple front and rear clips to go with it, and then we would do all of our own repair work. We very rarely sent anything back down to South Carolina, mostly just convenience. But we had all of our own chassis stuff because Dad used to build all of his own ARCA cars. So
I
think
what
that's
happened to those jigs.
So the one that we would have had last, we had all the way through 2009. We sold to a guy that I was kind of partnered with on my Xfinity stuff, and I don't know what he ever did with that, because that thing was like a 30,000 pound jig. It was huge. It was the first thing they ever built the prototype Viper on back in the 90s.
Wow.
And
That's cool.
It was so big. It was in a prototype shop just around the corner up in Michigan. I'll start back over.
Yeah.
Up in Michigan, there's a ton of prototype places, and all the car manufacturers would go separate to the prototype places and have them do work for them. So we had a buddy of ours that worked at this one that was maybe 2 miles from the shop. And this thing was so big that through the years, they started just building offices around it. They couldn't move it. So when they moved buildings, they had to tear all the offices down to get to the surface plate because it was all built around it. And we come in, it cost us more to move it than it did to buy it.
Really?
Yeah, you had to have 2 huge forklifts. I mean, it's 30,000 pounds.
I mean, how do you even move that? You have to.
It's big forklifts and a lot of people that know how to move heavy equipment. We moved it about 2 or 3 times, and the last move we did, we said we're never moving that thing again. So it stayed up in Michigan. I don't know whatever happened to it after that, but that's what we built all of our truck stuff on. From really we probably got that in like 93 or 4.
What did you have to do to the inside of this thing from how it
The
was?
inside, actually, not that much. That's original dashboard. None of the gauges really were in it. And the wiring was such a rat's nest, it just was best just to take it all out. There really wasn't anything there that was worthwhile. And the big thing for me is I wanted to make it look like older stuff, but it wasn't going to be. So we put electric gauges in it, which actually we just bought them new, and they still look like the old gauges that we had in this truck. But one of the reasons I wanted to do that, I didn't want any of the fluids to run inside the truck, because everything used to be mechanical, and you would run fuel pressure lines inside, you'd run oil pressure lines inside. It's been quite a while now, probably 15 years or so. NASCAR made all that stuff illegal. Like they didn't want any of the fluids inside of it. And actually one of the things I definitely agreed with. So we just put electric gauges in it, but we wanted them to be the big style ones and look kind of original. So that's, like I said, only about 2 or 3 of the gauges came with it anyway, and they were nothing good. So we had to redo all that. And then obviously I put my own seat and leg boards and stuff in it. But everything we tried to buy, we're trying to buy from used parts places. I very rarely buy anything new.
Did you make that pedal, the gas pedal?
Yeah, we had to recreate the gas pedal. I did buy it from SRI because it didn't come with a gas pedal in it. I don't know what the guy did, he took it out, but so I had to recreate that, and I actually still need to work on that some more. It's not totally comfortable. Those are the original brake and clutch pedals though. We did have to replace all the master cylinders because 25 years of them sitting around with brake fluid was not good for them. First time we hit the brake pedal, they literally all fell apart. All the internals all come apart. And we replaced all the brake lines too, because originally we didn't have like the high dollar stainless steel lines.
Yeah.
We just had steel lines that we made, and we always did all of our own stuff. So we flared and everything, put all that stuff together. When we started tearing into this thing and I had it 90% torn apart, we're just like, hey, we better just replace those two, because they might be rusty on the outside. I have no idea what they look like on the inside.
What is your current project up here? You got some stuff taken apart.
Yeah, so I actually had to, when I started setting it up, I had to redesign the upper control arms a little bit. They just got too close to the shocks. So I ended up buying the lowers. They were a Childress lower from COT cars, like 2010 to 12 range. And the COT lowers were squared up more. They might have had a little differences, but they were basically the same length on both sides, which a lot of circle track stuff back then was shorter on the left, longer on the right. I wanted something that was squared up for road course racing. So I found these sitting on a shelf at SRI. And
They're nice,
I'm
too.
like, they're really nice. And they had everything the way I wanted them. The shock mounts and the double shear shock mounts for bump stops. It had the double shear sway bar mounts raised so you could get the longer link in it. And I'm like, man, this is perfect. I brought them over to the truck. I found some bushings for them. They fit right in. I mean, it was like, I couldn't believe how easy it was. This thing fit right in. The spring lined up correctly. I had to buy a bucket for it, but that was easy. And I found all that stuff in the used parts place. I mean, I probably didn't spend $200 on everything for the lowers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
those TIG welds on there are beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. And this is previous to Childress going to a skinny or lower. So that's stuff nobody wants. And they had probably a few sets sitting there. Bolted right up. You couldn't have had it any easier than that.
That'd be a big project if they didn't.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Yeah, that was what I feared, because I've been down that road before. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have a lot of work to do here. The spindles I bought from an ARCA guy that just had them. They're not the new, the high caster, elliptical spindle, but they were pretty decent pieces, and it's something I like. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on putting spindles together for this. And for what we're doing, I'm like, I'm not sure I really need to have all that high caster trail stuff. So the uppers I bought right off the shelf at SRI, and that was probably the only difficult thing, is they hit the shocks. I actually just found a new one for the left front that clearanced it, but anybody that had anything like that for the right front had the new style spindles with the high drop stuff, so the ball joint angles are all wrong. So by the time I get done, I'm cutting it all up anyway. I might as well just fix what I had, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to fix the A-frame I got and make it work.
This is the other Bodine bar here.
Yeah, so that would be the other Bodine bars for the front side. They're not super convenient to get crush panels around and try to work around, but I will say this, especially on the left side, it's kind of nice to have. So if somebody hit you in the left side, it blocks where the driver's feet and stuff are a lot better.
That's good.
So it kind of did improve that.
What does this frame rail cap say Roadrunner on it?
So that's the name of this truck. We used to name all of our trucks. So way back when, our very first truck, we named it Dog because it was a Dodge and it had some of the lettering ripped off of it. And it's a dog, so all right, that's Dog. And through the years, actually, I got a little list going. One of our old shock guy that works at Spire now come over and made a list of the trucks. And I was trying to figure out how many trucks we had and what year they were built and things like that. And that's kind of a list of our trucks. And Roadrunner was built brand new in 2000. Walker was actually a truck we bought from Walker Evans, and that was our road course truck for a long time too. It was kind of just as you were building it, people were just kind of talking around. It could be a little bit of anybody. Honestly, it was no one person, but Dad probably named most of them.
Did he name the one after himself?
No, he did not name the one after himself, and that was a funny truck. That probably only got ran a few times in 05 and then sold in 06 to Mittler Brothers. That was the only truck that we didn't powder coat red.
Huh.
It was gray.
Does Ron come down here to help you at all?
Yeah, actually he's been down quite a bit. He's probably going to come down Friday or Saturday again and come down and help me and finish it up. He did all the wiring in this truck. He's 78 years old and getting in and out of this truck more than I can.
That's impressive.
Yes,
it looks really good too. It's
yeah,
really clean.
he's doing a good job with it. We struggled a little bit at first, just chasing down some electrical stuff and trying to get it right. But because again, we didn't put all new stuff in it. I kind of wish we would have, but we did. The wiring's all new, but the ignition boxes, things like that, weren't. So we had to rewire things and get it to fix. Get it all to work. But once he kind of chased it down and figured it out, it was pretty easy. But
what's the deal with this chrome cover piece here?
That's actually a funny thing. So you can see there's a crack right here. This is about the only damage that you still had original from the very first race and only race this truck ran. In Portland in 2000, this truck finished second. It was more of a fuel mileage deal. We actually were leading coming to the white and started running out of gas and finished second to Andy Houston with it. He was pretty quick that day, but we probably weren't a second place truck. We were probably a 10th place truck, but we did a fuel mileage deal, got out front and stayed out of all the mess, and everybody kept wrecking each other and off we went, right? But the grill was smashed up because of that crack through there and a little bit in the headlight. And Dennis wrecked it on the left side pretty bad in practice. And that all actually got fixed at home before we ever shipped it to this guy. So before it went to our showroom, this thing all got fixed back up. And so the left side's actually new. So it's all repaired work, not from us, but from 25 years ago. And then this was the only part that was old. Well, when we sold this truck, I sold the guy all the original chrome grills that we had from this year. And previous to this year, and it might have been about 98, 99, we were still using stock Dodge grills.
I didn't know that.
Very, very stock grill that came to you, had all the honeycomb in it and everything. We had to cut all the honeycomb out and put all the screens in and all the work. it was a pain in the ass. It really was bad. So they come out with a cap, a grill cap, and that's what this is here. Unfortunately, I ruined this one already. So, yeah, I took a drill and thought I was going to be good, and it started chunking out. It is 25-year-old plastic, so it isn't as easy. But the grill caps are very flimsy and light. And all you did was just cut out the holes and then double-sided taped it to the front of the nose. Huh. And the piece that was on there for so long, I had to chunk it off in little pieces. So that all got destroyed, which it was pretty sharp anyway. Luckily, I have a few extra ones of these, so I'm gonna need to be a lot nicer to the next ones because I won't be able to recreate that too easily. These trucks, like this era truck, nobody really saved that stuff too much. It was just, like all of our original Dodge stuff, if we didn't sell it, we took 3 of them and cut them up and made Fords out of them from 2001. Wow. So, and that was a big job back then because we used to have to cut cages out of it and everything. It was a lot of work because they all had different cabs. Like each manufacturer had their own styling of cab, and the Dodge was like the biggest one, and I think it was maybe the most set back, and then Ford was kind of somewhere in the middle. Chevy was way forward, so they had their own cage and everything in it. You could not make a Dodge into a Chevy. Like, it was almost impossible. Huh. You could make a Dodge into a Ford, but you couldn't make it into a Chevy. Huh. So, and vice versa, trying to make a Chevy backwards wasn't going to work very easily either. So,
why did you guys switch to Ford?
So it's been interesting to being in this building with this too. So this used to be the old Ultra Motorsports building, and in I'm gonna say probably 99 or so, a lot of the original Dodge guys that kind of worked with us and got us the Mopar deal started to retire. They'd been in racing since the 70s, so 60s or 70s. So they're all starting to retire, and some new guys came on board, and the new guys didn't like us as much. You know, we were kind of the family team, old school and whatever. The guy that owned Ultra Motorsports convinced them to come to them, so we still had a contract for the next year, but they decided to move on, so they got the Mopar deal. Through that, we were still going to run Dodges for the next year, but the new motor was coming out, and because of all the Cup teams that were running and all the truck teams that were running, that new motor was not available to us. So they basically just told us, you're out of luck. There's nothing you can do. So without having an engine program for the year, we were like, all right, we need to do something. We were going to have a new driver. Terry Cook was coming to drive. He had a little bit of Chevy help, so we were going to go Chevy. And with that, they gave us maybe some nose pieces and hoods. It was a very little amount of help. We started building our first Chevy, and then Ford came to us. They had lost a factory team, and they came to us it was super late, end of December, early January, and asked if we would become a Ford team and kind of work with them. And we didn't really have much from Chevy, so we're like, sure. So one of the Ford teams that switched to Chevy and created that opening had a truck just like what we were building, so we traded straight up. So it was our first drop snout truck that we ever had, and they had one too, built by Laughlin, and they just traded the truck straight up. And he got our Chevy and we got our Ford. Was that a Morgan? No, that would have been Phelon, the 66 truck that Rick Corelli was driving for. Yeah. I don't know if Rick was driving for him at that point, but he had drove that truck quite a bit. They had switched to Chevy, and I don't know if they even made the full season in 2001. They may not have. I don't remember them being around in maybe end of 01 to start of 02, so they were about gone by then. Interesting. But that kind of got us into the Ford deal, and through the mid part of that season, we still were unsponsored, and Morgan Dollar had Dennis Setzer driving for him, who had been driving for us, and Rob Morgan was the son of the owner, and they were going to run the Power Stroke deal, but it had to be a Ford. Well, they had switched to Chevy, and they were like, that's not going to work. We can't have one Ford and one Chevy. So they brought us the Power Stroke deal and said, hey, you know, they're looking to do, I forget, it was a 6-race program, something like that. First few races went really well with it. They signed on for the rest of the year, and then we ended up with this Power Stroke deal for the next 2 years. So that's how they kind of all progressed through it. Dad got sick early in 03, and then that Power Stroke deal, Terry ended up taking that deal to another team, which was an unfortunate circumstance. So, and that's kind of was the beginning of the end of our Truck Series team. But we ran for a couple more years, but we just really couldn't afford to keep doing it. So But yeah, so we ended up back in the Ultra Shop, the team that took our sponsorship.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and then Brad ended up with the shop that Morgan Dollar was in too, that ended up with our points and basically our number and everything from our team. So Brad had that when it was Cam, and he's just recently sold that last year, and now he's got it in the other shop that had some kind of relation to us on that. So, yeah. I do enjoy doing it. I'm getting to work in a really nice shop, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, this is really nice.
Yeah.
Like you get the fan to pull out grinding dust and everything, or fumes.
Yeah, it's when he finally got the fab shop done and we actually got the equipment in it and everything. A lot of this stuff is stuff Brad had at his race team, and they didn't need for the advanced manufacturing place, so it sat in storage. So this stuff all sat around for years. There's not a whole lot that's original from the old K Automotive days. There's like 2 things in the whole shop. That old toolbox, which was my grandpa's.
Wow.
And so that's from like the 60s. And we just use it for tooling for the Bridgeport now. And that slip roll, we had that about 98 or 99. That's the only 2 things left from the old K Automotive days in here.
Did you guys have any tricks?
We didn't. Dad was funny about that. There was kind of a line that he wouldn't cross. Like if it was on the body or something and he wanted to make a fender and try to make it more trick, yeah, we would do that. There was kind of certain things that he wouldn't do no matter what you did. If it was pushing some gray area stuff like body work, that's fine.
Engineering.
But some other stuff he was absolutely against. Like he just would not do that. And he just wouldn't even think of doing stuff like that. So that's actually in 2002 when we're winning all them races with Terry Cook. He got really, really mad at Joe Gibbs. And one of the reasons was Coy was running truck. And we're winning races and we're going pretty good. And Coy had been running decent. He never really was where he was going to win, but it was like he was top 5 truck a lot of times. And we won at New Hampshire, and NASCAR took our ignition boxes after the race. And they took them to go, back then they didn't have clear backing to them and stuff like that. They took them to x-ray them because everybody thought we were cheating. We must have traction control. I'm like, all right. So we get them back at IRP. There was no problem with them, right? And we're at IRP on a test day, and for whatever reason, my uncle was just kind of feeling a little cocky about it, and we're in the middle of the test day, and he put these ignition boxes back in the truck. It's like, I don't know, they're good luck, so we put them in. And we were the fastest in the test day, we were fastest in practice, qualified on pole, led almost every lap, won the race. After the race, Gibbs protested us, which didn't really happen very often, but they did. So they went up in there and made a big stink with NASCAR, so we took the same ignition boxes, and they knew they were the same ones, took them out, and they scroll sawed them in half, broke them open, and let everybody look at them.
Yeah.
And my uncle and my dad were so mad, and because we worked really, really hard on that stuff, and they were not cheaters. So they were just really mad that they were being accused of that, So once that happened, NASCAR actually bought us new ignition boxes after that deal, which was, my uncle wouldn't run them. He's like, nah, there's probably something wrong with them. But yeah, so he never really got over that. Dad was pretty mad about that for years. But
you said he said they were good luck. Was he kind of superstitious about stuff?
Sometimes, a little bit. I mean, we had won, to that point, we had won 3 races, 2 with that particular truck. And that was our first drop snout truck, and that truck was really good. And the thing that we did the most is we did a lot of testing at a skid pad that Ford had. And they were really, like the proving grounds up in Michigan are all super close to where we're at. Well, Ford had a proving grounds about 10 miles away from our shop. And we could go there just about any time we wanted. And what we would do is we would set up cones and just do a circular test the whole time, just trying to get like center of the quarter speed up and just try to figure out how to make the truck turn better. So we were extremely good on flat tracks.
These guys right here, the K Automotive Power Stroke Diesel team, this is the one that did it.
Third one for Terry Cook. He matches Mike Bliss, who also has 3. This is Terry Cook's third one here on another flat track.
And that's where we won almost all of our races. We won at IRP, New Hampshire, Milwaukee, St. Louis, places like that, right? And extremely good. We finished second in Memphis, and we just worked really, really, really hard to get our stuff to turn. And we did everything we could just to get it to turn. And that's where we kicked everybody's butt. And that truck was, whatever reason, man, that thing was really good. That was the truck we traded from the other race team in 2001, and we never built it until 2002. And we ended up running it in 2002 and won 3 races with it. So
what was its name?
Droopy Dog. It was a drops out, so yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of weird names for our trucks there for a while.
You like dog.
Yeah, they had a lot of that, yeah. My dad was really into X-Files, so we had a truck named Scully. He really liked the Terminator movies. We had a Terminator. Then we just had some I don't know, other random stuff, right? But I don't know how we other than it was a road course truck, I don't know how we really came up with Roadrunner, but that was the name of this one. So
that's cool. Don't you have his old hauler in here too?
Actually we can go over there and take a look at it.
So what is this truck we're looking at here?
Okay, so this is my dad's hauler from the ARCA days and the early truck days. This is actually, I think it's like an 81 or 82 cab over white. This thing sounds good.
I was gonna say, did you put X-Pipe on this too?
X-Pipes on it, and it's off of a Yates Super Speedway car from like 2007.
I gotta say this just because Kenny Wallace said he liked it the other day. If you made it this far, I think you're awesome, because that means you find the same stuff interesting that I do and that all the other people watching this do. That's what keeps it alive. You will get to see Brian show us Bob Keselowski's hauler and 51 Dodge truck in a separate video. This one was already an hour long. It could have been an hour and a half long because there was a lot more footage than that. Honestly, it could have been 3 hours long. I could listen to Brian talk about those old truck series days forever. It's just so cool. I love that. The truck series from inception to like 2008 was just epic. Watching those old races on YouTube, they're great. The people, the personalities, the tracks, the trucks, the way they looked, just awesome. The truck series is still really cool now. I think it's my favorite series. I just wish there were more manly men in it, like there was back then when you had pretty much like the who's who of short track veterans and some younger people in there. They're kind of like gatekeepers. If you beat these guys, you're good enough to move on. And I think that meant something. What do you think? And in the meantime, make sure you go check out the Hometown History Tour video that we did with Brad last summer. That is, I was going to say probably, but it is the most underrated, slept on video that we have ever made. That is a really good video, and it does not have the views that it should. I don't know why, but even if you're not a fan of Brad's, you need to watch it because there's something to learn there. And odds are you'll walk away from it a fan. And a little fun fact about that, their dad, Bob's number is 29 because Brad said he started racing when he was 29. And you think, having, manly men in the series, Bob raced for a long time, and he started when he was 29. I started when I was 28, 27, technically. First race was 28, now I'm 29. Things move slowly, but it's not all about the embryo test tube kids anymore. I think that era has run its course. And if I seem a little tired right now, it's because I am. I've been working like crazy to get my car ready, my Grand National Super Series car. I do a rear clip on it. Everything from the oil tank back is new. Car was pretty much cut in half and worked like hundreds of hours on it. It's still not done yet. And we're very close. We've been filming all of it. You'll see that in the video too, but I'll be back on the track really soon. And if you're still here, you're even cooler because you didn't check out once I started talking. I know seeing the retention curve once the end of the video comes, it starts to go woo because people leave. If you are still here, you're awesome.